What is an accommodation and what applies as a disability? Today's video is an introduction to understanding access or accessibility. Welcome to folks who may be new to me or the named advocates. My name is Carrie Gray and I identify as a Black disabled woman. I'm the founder of the National Alliance of Melanin Disabled Advocates. We go by the named advocates, and our content is about racial and disability topics. I'm excited to share that today's video is in partnership with Walmart and Pro Bono ASL as we discuss accessibility. Let's start with the definition. Okay, so according to the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights, accessibility means, quote, person with a disability is afforded the opportunity to acquire the same information, engage in the same interactions, and enjoy the same services as a person without a disability, end quote. I love being in spaces that have consideration for their guests and their team members. So I'll say it this way. I love going to a good concert. This past summer, I went to 50 Cent's Final Lap Tour here in the DMV, and the venue that I went to thought about access. It thought about accessibility. They had disabled parking, and it's at this large arena where you're walking super far and uphill to go all these different things, but they had disabled parking where I was able to get a lot closer and not have to walk as far on my prosthetic. They also had an ADA entrance with shorter lines, and just really considered the amount of time and how much you would have to push your body to get from point A to point B. These are examples of accommodations and ADA services that were created in response to the Americans with Disabilities Act. But I really learned about accessibility by attending my first disability conference. It was incredible. It was a space filled with so many diverse, disabled folks with all sorts of disabilities. And when I went to this conference, I saw sign language and ASL interpreters. Part live captioning was in breakout rooms. There was digital and braille copies were available. There was a quiet room. There was just so much thought when it came to access. So as we think about this charge of accessibility, whether we're advocating for ourselves, whether we're leaders in our community, here are a few tips I would recommend when you convene your teams and your community members. So the first thing I would recommend is have a point of contact around access needs. Is that person you or someone in guest services, HR? Like, there have been so many times I've needed to reach out to someone and ask, there is an elevator I can use, or can they provide details about how much walking is involved? Having a point of contact to address accessibility can go a long way. 2, we should definitely be considering the digital access. If you're hosting a meeting or a function that has paper copies, an agenda, a menu, anything, consider how folks who are low vision and blind could also access this material. Having a digital copy available supports accessibility. Particularly in this digital age, it's important to factor in the access features on platforms such as Zoom, Google Meets, Microsoft Teams. Zoom, for instance, has the option for folks to use AI-generated captioning, which is helpful to the deaf community and folks who are hard of hearing like myself. But many people do not have this feature enabled. You'll have to literally go into the settings of your Zoom account and enable your meetings to use automated captioning. And 3, I'll say that language access is important. You should check with your members and your community to see if anyone needs ASL interpreters. Does anyone need live captioning? Does anyone need access to a meeting transcript or materials in plain text language? All of these are great features when it comes to providing accessibility. So let's check in with our partners at Pro Bono ASL and hear their thoughts on access.
Hello. My name is Ashley. This is my name sign. I'm a deafblind actor. Something that I need access to is language itself. Interpreters are important, and ASL interpretation is essential, but there are other things such as facial expressions and environmental factors that I need access to because I'm unable to see them. The best way to provide that access is pro-tactile interpretation, which provides access to what I have missed visually through touch-based communication. PT helps me differentiate between the things I can and can't see. Co-navigators are also essential for accessibility because I need access to the world around me. I need to know what's happening environmentally and what is not.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. All in all, I would say that accessibility comes down to our core principles and how we treat one another. If you see accessibility as a burden or as one more problem to deal with, then that attitude can trickle across the entire organization. When I imagine an accessible future, I imagine leaders and organizations building programs and events that are grounded in two core principles. The first is universal design. Universal design is the design and composition of an environment so that it can be assessed, understood, and used to the greatest extent possible by all people, regardless of their age, size, ability, or disability. Curb cuts are a great example of universal design. The second principle I will note is collective access. Defined by creating collective access, it is, quote, access that was intentionally created collectively instead of individually. Most of the time, access is placed on the individual who needs it. It is up to you to figure out your own access needs, or sometimes it's up to you and your caregiver, personal attendant, or random friend. Access is rarely weaved into a collective commitment and way of being. It is isolated and regulated to an afterthought, much like disabled people. Disability justice calls for us to come together when it comes to thinking about the environments, programs, products that we are developing. Collective access is a gateway to accessibility. I want to say thank you again to our partners at Pro Bono ASL and Walmart for having us get a basic understanding of accessibility. You can learn more about their work in the description below. Finally, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the Named Advocates YouTube page and follow us on social media. Thanks for joining into our conversation about accessibility, and continue to be a part of our journey as we learn about racial and disability topics.